Now, for a closer look at the top issues from the Boao Forum, let's bring in our political and economic affairs commentator, Einar Tangen. Always good to see you.
Good to be seen.
Now, as we saw, President Xi there speaking at the opening ceremony. What are the main economic themes and takeaways that really stood out to you?
Well, I mean, what you have here is a very, very stark contrast. You have Biden, who believes that the world should be basically under the tutelage of the United States. Xi is offering a very contrasting vision. But what really sticks out here is not so much what is being proposed, which we know is the future, but the past. And by that, I mean, if you start looking at the results, the United States, unfortunately, is in disarray. It's a house divided. There are social issues, there are economic issues, and for the last 40 years, it has been sliding sideways with the middle class going down and the poor, numbers of poor going up. In China, it has been the exact opposite. It has been, over the last 40 years, 880 million people lifted out of poverty, an economy that is now, by size, rivaling the U.S., but not on a per capita basis. And, you know, if you start looking at trust indexes, there's one put out by Edelman. And in that, which has been doing it for the last 20 years, coincidentally with Boao, which has also been 20 years, China is at the top. The U.S. is much further down the list. If it is about engendering the trust of your people, and this is the real aim of government, right, then Xi Jinping is offering a new and different vision.
And to that point, we did see President Xi talking about global governance reforms to really better reflect the diverse range of international perspectives rather than it just being focused or led by a few major nations. How might that impact economic relationships?
Well, it's already impacting. You know, we've seen the tariffs and the walls and the Cold War mentality that's being exhibited and extended not only to military but to economic and also political ends. Hopefully, this does not result in a schism where you have two world orders. But I think if you look closely, the people who are standing on the side and watching, the countries that are standing on the side and watching, represent 60% of the world's GDP. And they have a very stark decision to make. Are they going to follow the U.S., which says that there's only one system, and in essence, you must be subservient to U.S. Views and interests, or China's, which says it should be a shared prosperity for all? I think the answer is evident, but the difficulty is the U.S. strength militarily, politically, and economically. People are sometimes afraid.
Now, we have seen, obviously, a lot of organizations looking at China's economic rebound, looking at some lessons that other countries can learn. Talk about the key drivers in China's rebound, as well as some of the potential hurdles you see.
Well, rebound, if you're talking about the last 40 years, it's been very simple. China started out with very low resources per person. They didn't have, extractive industries that they could sell things to the rest of the world. In fact, they had, very, very low resources per person and had not been developed. Through planning and very, very careful management, they have been able to boost their country over a long period of time, to the extent that, as I said before, the people, China is #1 in terms of satisfaction of large countries by the people within China. So really what it comes down to is a difference in planning. Whereas in the West, you have this kind of seesaw approach where one group says they're going to solve all the problems, aren't able to do it, and then another group takes over. And in many cases, reverses what happened before. We saw this with Obama, with Trump, and now Biden. It is just not the way to move a country forward consistently.
So then, as we focus on some of China's goals, we did see at the forum that the Belt and Road featured prominently as well. Talk about the goals achieved so far and what still lies ahead.
Well, Belt and Road, as she was saying, it's all about hard connectivity, and that means, literally, how do I move goods? If I'm a farmer somewhere, where do I sell my produce? Maybe I can do it online, but I physically have to get it there. So you need roads, rails, ports, airports in order to move things around. But it's about soft connectivity. It's not about judgments. The Belt and Road doesn't come in and say, like the IMF, the World Bank, that you need to change your governance, or that we don't care for the way that you you conduct yourself socially or morally or religiously. And that is all left aside. So, there has to be room for sovereign nations in order to govern their own affairs according to their culture, history, and the feelings of the people. So at this point, the Belt and Road is really about pushing an envelope, creating, it's beyond the regional because South America is now involved quite heavily, creating a regional compact of like-minded nations who believe that they are sovereign, but they want to participate in something that is win-win as opposed to, zero-sum.